Live from the road course at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, this is the NTT IndyCar Series. With complete coverage of today's practice, this is the IndyCar Radio Network.
Final 30-minute tune-up before we go racing tomorrow for the Gallagher Grand Prix here at the world's greatest race course, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Mark James, Davey Hamilton, Ryan Marine set to take you through the next 30 minutes or so. And Davey, when the dust had settled on knockout qualifying of the Firestone Fast Six earlier today, it's been a day to celebrate for Rahal, Letterman, Lanigan Racing. 3 of the top 8, including the front row. First time since 2017, Graham Rahal is set on pole in the NTT IndyCar Series.
And do you remember when he set on pole in that 2017 in Detroit? He dominated that weekend by winning both events, if I recall. So, I mean, he, hopefully that luck goes. They need it. He needs it, especially after missing the 500. Last time that 15 car was at this facility, as you mentioned, that he was bumped out of the Indy 500, and then he comes back, sits on the pole of the Grand Prix this weekend. So pretty impressive.
All in all, an impressive day for the team. Other good runs for the good folks at Arrow McLaren as Alexander Rossi and Pato Award make up row number 2.
Yeah, that's right, and that's another style. I mean, it's not going to be an easy race. We see how close the times are, and they're on top of each other. And right now, we're looking at this final warm-up, Mark. It looks like a race out there. They're all coming in, a lot of them coming in, doing system checks, did some changes on their cars before this final warm-up. Majority of them coming in. They'll do pit stop practice. They may even scuff a few sets of tires in. Probably do a full tank, a load of fuel to go out there and make sure that the car, when it's heavy at its slowest, or the heaviest, I should say, that it's handled properly.
Dominant cars last weekend for Andretti Autosport in Nashville. Things did not work out well for Colton Herta. They worked out famously for Kyle Kirkwood, who picked up his second win of the season. The story of qualifying not so good for those two. However, Devlin DeFrancesco, Roman Grosjean of the Fast Six, they make up row 3.
Yeah, and I'm happy for both those guys. They needed a little shot in the arm. DeFrancesco's kind of got beat up the last few years. I mean, he's usually at the bottom of the Andretti cars, his slowest, because you got some superstars in there, some guys are really fast, and him coming in as a rookie and just he really stepped up. This road course is, it's the real deal. I mean, you got to be fast, you got to hit it just right. It seems like it lacks front grip out there for most of these cars, and he hit it just right and did a great job.
Thought we might be dodging raindrops from time to time throughout the day. We've not been washed in sunshine. We've had cloud cover, some humidity. There's still some events yet to run, including Indy Next by Firestone. For the specifics on the conditions here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, we welcome in Ryan Marine.
Hey, Mark. Yeah, so far so good as far as the raindrops are concerned. We do have some fluffy clouds high atop the Indianapolis Motor Speedway at the moment, and it is still warm and fairly humid, although a far cry from what we were experiencing in Nashville 1 week ago. 84-degree ambient temperatures. The track temps have continued to creep up, now up to about 114 degrees out on the racetrack as these NTT IndyCar Series drivers venture out for this final warm-up ahead of tomorrow's Gallagher Grand Prix. And Davey touched on it. This is an important session because the teams are allowed to do live pit stops, everything but the refueling here. And this is especially important for Linus Lundqvist, who is making just his second NTT IndyCar Series start here this weekend. And you'll remember the warm-up session in Nashville last week, it was rained out. They didn't get a chance to do any pit stop practice before the race, so his first live pit stops in an IndyCar actually came in the race itself. He's now in for his second pit stop practice attempt here. He was a little bit far on his marks here this second time, and they're having some trouble with the left rear, but this is why they practice, guys, especially with a rookie making just his second appearance in the series.
Perhaps a wrongful assumption on our part, Davey, because we haven't discussed it much, but they've Connor Daly, they've had Simon Pageau, they've had Tom Blomqvist, now they have had Linus Lundqvist in that car. How difficult is that for that over-the-wall guy?
Yeah, every driver approaches pit lane just a little bit different, of the box just a little bit differently as well. But they, I'm sure, have it marked, and they're telling him, being he's a rookie, that team's probably telling him how they would like to have it done. So it makes it easier for that crew. Pretty basic, really, but it just getting used to the signboards, exactly where you need to stop. If you're stopping by a guy's hand on top of the tire, if you stop by that signboard, and then just the routine of them changing the tires, putting fuel in the car, what it takes. That has to be, the field probe has to be unplugged before you can engage it into gear. So just getting all those things, timing, make sure you reset your field properly, and then getting in and out from that's critical. From the time the speed limit starts, you need to get down to speed, get to that speed limit, and then once you get to the timeline leaving, you need to get to speed as quick as you can. So there's a lot of things he needs to be learning.
Going back to the front row for tomorrow's race, we had what I thought to be an interesting conversation with Christian Lundgaard. He referenced numerous times Graham Rahal and what he feels like he hopes Graham's approach is to turn number one. We know what can happen down there, and as you accurately portrayed it, you might not want to worry so much about who's beside you as you should be who's behind
you. Yeah, right, because we've seen many times where you get a little bit of a draft coming down this long straightaway. Once you get that green flag, getting down into turn one, it fans out 4 wide. It's going to do it again. It does it every race that we have, and that just makes sure that nobody takes that bonsai run down, especially on the inside, and takes you out. So I'm sure Lundgaard and Graham are going to have a nice chat, how to start, when to get on the throttle, and probably already made an agreement to probably let Graham out front and stay on the driver's right and let Lundgaard try to get right in behind him and protect that inside lane.
And you believe that?
Well, it all works until you put the helmet on, right? So as soon as you get that helmet on, you tend to forget everything, and your teammate becomes your enemy because you want to beat him. So yeah, you're right. As soon as we put our helmets on, it's like you forget a lot of things.
A couple of years now that Joe Hale has been in charge of the fortunes of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Museum as its president, and we have gotten to know Kara Covert-Prey and the young man seated a couple of seats away, Jason Van Sickle, and we have enjoyed sharing all of the exciting things that are going on to the museum. But boy, we have saved the best for last. And Jason Van Sickle joins us now, who's the Vice President of Curation and Education. And Kara's been telling me beginning back in May, she said, "You just wait, you ain't seen nothing yet." And hey, congratulations! An $89 million undertaking. It's called Stories Behind the Spectacle.
Yeah, and thanks for having me on here. Obviously, we've been working on this in the behind the scenes over the last few years, and in last month when we were able to publicly announce our project and show the renderings that we've been working hard on, it has been a bit of a relief. But don't get me wrong, obviously a lot of hard work is ahead of us to not only raise the money but put this dream of ours to reality and for the guests of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
Well, and to that end, I mean, it's an ambitious undertaking with a price tag of $89 million, but thanks to the good folks at the Lilly Endowment and also many others who have stepped up already, you're at 51% as we speak today, correct?
Yes, we are. And, with the help of the Lilly Endowment is tremendous. Right now, they're actually working on a matching grant through the end of September that any new pledge that we receive will be matched up to $5 million. So right now is a huge opportunity to double your money to support our cause for this renovation. When
your president, Joe Hale, was here for the first time a couple of years ago, the thing that he said to me was that he was going to take a group of folks and travel around the country and go to not just motorsport related museums but all types of museums and take notes and talk to curators and people in charge of those museums. All of this project is a result of that in part?
Yeah, I mean, it's in part of that to get the ideas. It's in part of our partners, JRA, out of Cincinnati, who have assisted us in taking our ideas and putting them on paper, if you will. It's also a part of just looking around and seeing what people do well in other organizations and then putting that into reality with this plan.
Jason Van Sickle is our guest from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Museum, and so give us a little insight. What could we be excited about in 2025 of April? What could we look for? What's it going to look like?
Yeah, so just to give you a little bit of a timeline, we're working towards this. It's a completely renovated experience. The building itself, the exterior will stay the same. It's hard to believe that that's the second oldest building on the property when you look at it that way, but also it will be not only more immersive, it will truly be a vessel to tell the stories behind the spectacle at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. The display of the vehicles, the archives that we have, new use of space, the basement, which has been off limits historically, that will become public area that not only will highlight temporary galleries, but additional winning cars that we have in the collection, feature cars that we have. The Track Tour Lounge will run out of there. We're also looking to add about 6,000 square feet inside the museum of a mezzanine to help display those objects that we have. But there's also additional outside the museum, a 60,000 square foot restoration location that hopefully will be within about 15-minute drive of the Speedway that will add all our cars on display.
So 10 minutes into this 30-minute session, Joseph Dugard has gone to P1. Then it's Armstrong, Rosenquist, Hunter Ray, and Rossi, the top 5. Herta, Ray Hall, Eilot, Castro Evans, and Power, the top 10. One of the things, many things that Joe has talked about from day one is walking through the museum when he first took over stewardship of the museum. And witnessing the hey, don't touch policy. And this is going to totally and completely get away from that.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the STEAM classroom that we have in the qualifying zone, those will be the most tangential parts of this new experience. Simulators that will add to this experience. The ability to show the careers that motorsports, especially here in Indianapolis and outside, allows students as they develop and grow and try to chase their dreams, not only of becoming a race car driver itself, but also all the support from a crew standpoint, team management roles, and obviously hospitality. Those will be a more tactile and hands-on experience.
Now, we certainly don't want to give the folks the impression that it's still not it's not a great place to visit now, because it is. Matter of fact, you have some exhibits that you're going to run through. I believe it's early November when you close in earnest. So tell folks that those certainly are worth taking a look-see.
Yeah, while you come out here for the Brickyard Weekend, we are open special hours, and check our social media. Right now, we opened our exhibit titled 1956, and it's an interesting exhibit that looks back towards the original museum when it was on the corner of 16th and Georgetown on the wing of the original administration building.
I was there.
Yeah, it started May of 56 with 6 vehicles. Quickly over the next few years, it grew to the 13 that kind of filled that spot. So we highlight the beginnings of the foundation, if you will. And then going concurrently with that exhibition is a really exciting exhibition that we have called Our Collection, Your Favorites. And in March, we did a social media poll to see what guests and fans want to see on display. So a lot of our heavy-hitting favorite cars are on that. The Novi, Jim Clark's pole-winning Lotus, Turbines, Ari Leindyke's record car, the cars that we consistently hear when they're off the display floor for various different reasons. We've put them back on display as a last hurrah as we're open throughout this weekend until we close for renovations November 6th.
I should say I was not there in 56. Davey might have been.
Yeah,
I didn't get there until 71, so I was at the museum on the corner for sure. Now, we talked about the fact that you're well on your way to your fundraising goal, but you have a long way to go. Can anyone get involved in helping with that project? If so, how do they do that?
Yeah, so anyone can donate, and we appreciate all the support from our various donors. We've had seeded some great support, but also $5, $10 donations will help our goal. It is a community event to reinvigorate this community institution, and it is a way to become a part of this project that we've started. Donation information can be found at our website, imsmuseum.org, and it's an easy way to become a part of this project.
Any chance that maybe after the museum closes in early November that you got to give people a look-see at the construction project as it's going on?
Yeah, we're talking how we can do that. Obviously, insurance and other hard hat policies fall into that with the live.
If nothing else, you have to do it via video. Or
but
that.
I think there potentially we're talking about member opportunities and hard hat tours. Yeah. Obviously, we have to work through the ropes with that, but we want this to be a visual transformation to see how it is right now, a great institution, and how it will become in 2025.
Well, as I said, I know that we're honored and privileged that we've developed a relationship with all of you that we've had, and we are right here lockstep with you through this process, and we'll do all we can to help you moving forward.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yep, that's Jason Van Sickle. He's Vice President of Curation and Education for the Museum. $89 million, Davey. Stories behind the spectacle.
Yeah, it's no joke. joke. $89 million. I mean, that's a massive amount of money, but it's going to be well worth it. Excited to see when that project's completely done, because it's going to be fun thing for any age to go see. And
it'll look like it should.
And that's right. Yeah. Look like it should. There's so many cars that so much history at this place, and the interactive area for the kids, I think, is always great too, with the pit stop. How we go about pit stops and seeing some things that are real life that they can touch and feel. I think it's going to generate more fans as well.
Well, I don't know what it means, but from an engine manufacturer standpoint, it looks like a Chevy flexed a little muscle here in this practice session, Davey. We see they've got 5 of the top 7 right now. It goes Chevy, Honda, then Chevy, and then a couple of Hondas in the top 10.
Yeah, and they need it. Chevrolet needs to have a good run just to stay in contention right now. Honda, 4 races left. We've already talked about that. We know that Chevrolet has been strong on the ovals. Seems like on the street and roads, Honda's been having just a little bit of an advantage right now. Newgarden, somebody who qualified, struggled qualifying, struggled in practice. Right now, in race conditions, seems to have a pretty good handle on that race car. Seems like maybe they must have found something. He was out there, one of the first on track to see what he had. Obviously looks really good. And then, Rossi, Award, and Rosenquist, those McLaren cars are 4th, 5th, and 6th respectively. But how about 7th? Ryan Hunter-Reay, and that Ed Carpenter car, they've been struggling. He got kind of thrown to the wolves, to be really honest with you. He's only been in the car, I think this is his 4th race, and not easy just to hop in those race cars with it being out of them for so long. But right now, seems to have good pace when in the race conditions.
Big day for Helio Castroneves, Davey, a top 12 qualifier for him, and a little spring in his step when his future plans were announced. A minority ownership stake at Meyer Shank Racing, and he will be an Indy-only participant next year, but still going to be involved with that team. As we said, a small stake in the ownership, but he's going to be an ambassador for them, and I'm sure we'll see him at the racetrack plenty, and Tom Blomqvist is going to move over to the series full-time.
Isn't that great? I mean, what opportunity. I really didn't know that Helio had interest in ownership stakes in the team, but obviously he did, and that team, after he won him Indy 500, they made it a little opportunity for him. Great spokesman, as you said earlier. I mean, having Helio on your team is nothing but a positive. Still going to run the Indy 500, and seems very happy about it. The key is, I think when he, was released by Penske, I don't think he was done. As a matter of fact, I know he wasn't done because he came back and won another Indy 500. But I think, at a full-time level right now with, the younger generation coming up and a little braver, he has a lot to lose, and these young kids sometimes don't. And they just seem to get a little bit more out of it. He knows how that is because he's one of those kids at one time.
Well, good news for fans of both, 2 of the most popular drivers that we've had in recent memory in the NTT IndyCar Series, lifelong friends and competitors. Tony Kanaan, obviously, had been working essentially as an ambassador of drivers, knows whatever they need to do for Arrow McLaren, and now his buddy Helio's going to be at the racetrack with him.
Yeah, 2 great personalities. You said, matter of fact, Tony came down with us, hopped in one of the 2-seaters, gave Kyle Busch a little spin around the track, so that was cool. And Tony still, he loves this sport. He's active. He wants to show other people, give him a feel. Matter of fact, we were here last week doing some rides on the oval, and he did 25 rides for some of their, I think it was, I can't remember who the guests were, but he came out, got in that car, gave him rides. He still wants to support and grow this sport and show the people how fun it is.
About 12 minutes remaining in this session. 292 laps turned. Ritas VK has gone to P1. Then Joseph Newgarden, Armstrong, Ray Hall, and Rossi. Award, Rosenquist, Hunter-Reay, DeFrancesco, and Pillow. Then Lundgaard, Herta, Dixon, Castroneves, and Eilon. Harvey, Power, Erickson, Malukas, Grosjean, Canapino, then Ferrucci, McLaughlin, Kirkwood, Lundquist, Peterson, and Stingray Robb. We did not get the chance after qualifying to have a conversation with either Will Power or Joseph Newgarden. Will qualified 17th. Joseph Newgarden qualified 19th. They were not happy.
They were not happy, and rightfully so. Not where they wanted to be. As we just talked about, Newgarden jumped to the top of the chart, but then VK just now beat him out in that Carpenter car back. We were just talking about Ryan Hunter-Reay. Seems like they have pretty good race cars at this point as we see Colton Herta go off. Oh, no, I'm sorry. He's just coming out of pit lane. I seen him coming back.
You just saw the north end and assumed he
it just assumed it was down there, right. And but Will Power still looking for that speed potentially in that 17th position. McLaughlin in the 23rd position. Now, McLaughlin was the best qualifier out of that Penske group. But just seems like they're really inconsistent. Usually those drivers are pretty close to each other on the timing chart.
Well, for those that may not understand, I mean, there's a team concept there. And when you do the debrief, I'm sure, obviously, that we know Penske as much as any. One for all and all for one. But while McLaughlin, qualified solidly, all in all, I mean, it was 11th quick, not really Penske-like and what they would prefer. Whenever you have one car in a team that qualifies well and maybe the other two doesn't, it's not as though they're keeping secrets from them, and you know this as well as anybody. Just because they put another driver's setup on your car doesn't mean it's going to work for you.
That's right. There's several things to look at, right? So you need to look at, that's why you have teammates for certain setups, and then you have all that data. I'll see, okay, in Sector 1, where am I getting beat? They find the fastest guy of the team, find out his line, pinpoint it exactly, see how much curb he's using, see acceleration, what gear he's in, what RPM, and that's able to tell the other driver, okay, that's where I need to pick it up. But right now, they're pretty scattered around. As Pelot, and no surprise, our points leader, he jumped to the top. But how about Callum Milot in that Uncos Ollinger car in P2 right now?
About 10 minutes remaining in this session. An update from pit road with Ryan Marine.
Team that's having a really nice session right now would be Ed Carpenter Racing. You guys talked about first and second, but just below at Ilott is Rinus VeeKay, who was a former winner on this road course. He's third fastest and sounded pretty miffed that he didn't make it out of the first round of qualifying. Felt like they were pretty close and just didn't quite put it all together earlier today. And then his teammate, Ryan Hunter-Reay, who was the runner-up in the first IndyCar race here on the IMS road course, he's also in the top 10, or now has fallen down to 13th, but was in the top 10 just prior to picking up here on this update. So that's a team that's really been searching for some speed all season long. This is a track that typically suits them, both the oval and the road course, and nice to see that they have found a little bit of speed here with just under 9 minutes to go in this final practice session.
And your points leader, Alex Pelot, goes to P1, Ilott P2, VeeKay, Herta, Catapino, Newgarden, Armstrong, Rahal, Rossi, and Grosjean the top 10. Looks like Joseph Newgarden is happy with his session. He is out of the car. 4:45 Eastern Time, flag-to-flag coverage to wrap up this very long but enjoyable day. Indy next by Firestone, and Nick Yeoman joins us now. Who'll be on the call for that one.
Did you say Joseph Newgarden's happy with his session? Because that's a lot
I'm
different.
assuming that. I can't see his face.
That's a lot different than what we saw in qualifying from a couple hours ago when he was none too happy. Yeah, Mark, excited for another round of Indy Next by Firestone for the first time on this shared NASCAR and IndyCar weekend. The Indy Next drivers get showcased as well to close out this Friday. Everybody chasing Christian Rasmussen. He enters the points leader, fresh off of wins at Iowa and Nashville, but he didn't qualify very well earlier today. He's going to start 9th. Driver on the pole position is Hunter McElroy, and he told Ryan Marine after qualifying, he said, this pole feels as good as winning a championship. I don't know if I necessarily agree with him, but McElroy is coming on strong. He's had a handful of top 5 finishes, kind of peaking at the right time, so we'll see if he can win his first race of the season and continue to chase down Christian Rasmussen when we go racing here at Indianapolis.
How many laps today's race?
35, I believe, Mark. So I think, lap time's a little over a minute. This one should get over pretty quickly. Looking at about a 40-minute race, and the racing always very good here at Indianapolis. 19 of 21 races here have been won by a different driver in Indy Next by Firestone. So this has always been very competitive. Whether it's on the oval, on the road course, we see lots of different winners here in Indy.
And Davey, let's face it, we've seen it over the past handful of years in those races. The fact that the guy out front lulls himself into a false sense of security and wears out those tires and oftentimes doesn't finish up front.
And we've seen that, as Nick said, on the oval or the road course. Both things, no pit stops here. They have to take care of those tires and to make sure that they're under them at the end of the event. And you're right, we've seen them. Now, I tell you, earlier this year, it was kind of a runaway. I think in the first race of the season in May, but we'll see. Those tires seem to be good. They held on really well, but you do have to take care of them if you wear out one end of your car and can't keep it. We see that at Iowa as well, where tires were given up at the end.
If that race at Iowa would have been one more lap, I don't think Christian Rasmussen would have won it. And the interesting thing is, Davey, you mentioned it, the race in May, that was won by a driver who's not even in the
He's not even here. Yeah, that's right.
And Matteo Nannini, the young Italian driver, had a fallout with Juncos Hollinger Racing. citing some budget issues as well being an issue. He's not with that team anymore, so the one driver who had a great run on the road course at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway will not be competing a little bit later this afternoon. So really looking forward to it, Mark. Unlike the IndyCar Championship, this one still feels like it's pretty wide open. Rasmussen has the points lead, but you've got guys like Jacob Abel, Nolan Siegel, and then, of course, Hunter McElroy, his teammate Louis Foster, all seem like they're within striking distance. One or two good weeks here or there, and I think you can be right back in the hunt.
I'll head over to the roof of the Pagoda, have a spectacular view of the downtown Indianapolis skyline and Holman Boulevard. Michael Young will be down calling them onto the road course. Jake Query will handle the duties on the south end. Ryan Marine on pit road with Nick and Davey in the booth. Look forward to the call at 4:45 Eastern this afternoon. Busy day tomorrow. The Cup Series practice and qualifying from 11:30 to 1:30 with Doug Rice, Jeff Hammond, and, of course, Brett McMillan and Brad Gilling. And then from 2 to 4:30 tomorrow, complete coverage of our race. And Ryan and Brett and Brad will have the pit gold on that. And we'll have Nick, Michael, and Jake out on the course. And then we'll have the NASCAR Xfinity race. I'll be in the booth with Doug and Jeff and Ryan, Brett, and Brad on pit road. And we will welcome Pat Patterson to the broadcast for the weekend. And then that whole crew will be together on Sunday. Davey, what a weekend for us.
Great weekend. I mean, as you said, over 18 hours of airtime here in Indianapolis in our beautiful booth overlooking the front straightaway. Pretty cool to have the opportunity to be here this weekend. There's so many different, with NASCAR and IndyCar combined, you don't see it anywhere else, and I like it. I think it's great. You'd be able, matter of fact, as we just said, Tony Khan able to give Kyle Busch a ride around the speedway in IndyCar, give him a little taste of what it feels like going around a car a lot lighter with a lot more downforce, and I'm sure Kyle was impressed.
So now, as we get into the final moments of this session, Alex Palou continues P1, Eilert, Kirkwood, VK, and Herta. Erickson, Canapino, Armstrong, Lundgaard, and David Maluka has had the chance to say hi a couple of times this weekend to our good friends throughout the course of the media center. Marshall Pruitt among those, and Marshall reporting earlier today, Davey, that in his opinion it's no longer a foregone conclusion that Alex Palou is leaving Ganassi Racing. He thinks, he's convinced now that there's a shot based upon what he's hearing that he might actually stick around. And we talked about it earlier this season. It'd be tough to let a guy walk away with a championship.
Yeah, it'd be tough. It looks like he's going to be our champion, a two-time champion, both for Ganassi. As young as he is and as consistent as he is, he could be a multi-time champion, Indy 500 winner. He could have, he could be here 20 years from right now, Mark, still racing in this series and being competitive with that Ganassi team. So, he's got a lot of decisions. Don't know what his opportunities are. And if it's Formula One, we kind of understand it. But if it's another IndyCar team, boy, I wouldn't be leaving.
Here's the thing. He's young enough, though, that the world is his oyster, as they say. I mean, no matter what decision he makes, he can make what he thinks at the time is the right one for Alex Palou. And if in a couple of years, Davey, it turns out not to be that, he can undo that.
Yeah, you can undo that. And you always want to make the right one because you want to continue to win. And sometimes we've seen drivers are really good, maybe make the wrong decision and teams, and then the opportunity of a good team doesn't come back. Now, I don't think it'd be a situation. He's just so talented and such an easy guy to work with and to be around. So, he's gonna, whatever he chooses, we're gonna be watching him no matter what. So that's a key.
Interesting to note, Davey, that as we're into this session, what's fascinating to me is showing how fast this track is. We've got practice speeds in this session that's pretty darn close to what our qualifying.
Yeah, that is exactly right. Pretty amazing on how fast they're going. And by the way, I watched Scott Dixon get just a little bit of smoke off the front tires going down in turn one, but then he finished lap, puts himself in P1. His teammate, who we just talked about, Palou, in P2. So Ganassi cars first and second, no real surprise. A little bit of a surprise, Uncos Hollinger. Third with Eilert. Kirkwood, our last week winner, no surprise there. But how about VK and Ryan Hunter-Reay? Ryan Hunter-Reay has fell down in the charts. He's down at 23rd right now, but VK and that Ed Carpenter racing car finds himself P5.
Just watch Scott McLaughlin hit 186 miles per hour in sixth gear and then make the right-hander into turn number one. Before you knew it, he was all the way down to first gear.
All the way down, yeah. No, it's you go through the gears quick here. High speed down to really low speeds in turn 1, turn 7, even turn 12. You got to get woed up there and get it down to first gear. Gearing's very important here too, Mark, because it's a situation where it's a very fast course, but you don't want your first gear to be so high that you can't get, you got to shift very quickly out of the corner. So, gearing is important.
Last man standing in the Firestone Fast 6 was Graham Rahal in qualifying earlier today. Our Ryan Marine caught up with him.
Well, the last time Graham Rahal was qualifying here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, he was bumped from the Indianapolis 500, from those lows now to the high of scoring pole here on the IMS road course. What are your emotions?
Feels good, it feels really good. Just not even that. It just feels good to be up front again. And obviously we started on the front row at Mid-Ohio, but I mean, to be on pole is something I'm not known for, and to be able to put it together and to get ourselves in a great shot to go win tomorrow means the world to me. So certainly can sleep a little easier tonight and know we've got a great opportunity ahead.
Your last pole was Detroit, and that in 2017. That weekend went pretty well for you as far as finding victory lane is concerned.
It did, and even just this morning, the performance in the session, the car felt really, really good. So to be able to carry that forward into qualifying was really solid, and we'll see what warm-up happens here in a little bit, but I definitely feel really good, so let's see what happens.
To see the smiles of the team, your father behind you with a big smile on his face as well. Can you put into words the significance?
Well, it's just it's a nice load off the back, after so long. As I said a second ago, it's not a win, but it feels like it just to be here. We knocked on the door Mid-Ohio, but to be here this time around, get Code 3 Associates up front means the world, and get these guys. I mean, these guys have busted their butts all year, so they deserve it.
Congratulations on the pole. Good luck tomorrow.
Thank you.
And the checkered flag flies on the session with Dixon, Palou, McLaughlin, Eilot, and Kirkwood the top 5. VK, Herta, Erickson, Canapino, and Armstrong the top 10. And Davey, I have it did it at the time, encourage parents of youngsters in youth league sports, if they want to teach them about sportsmanship and class, I strongly encourage them to go to YouTube or wherever and find all of the interviews that Graham Rahal did after he was bumped out of the Indianapolis 500 and the way that he conducted himself in the face of adversity.
And obviously when his family showed up, just how it hurt him deeply inside. I mean, he couldn't hold back the tears. He was absolutely devastated, but he faced it head on.
Yep.
He didn't turn down any interviews. He just, his emotions were on his sleeve, and rightfully so. He just missed the biggest race in the world. And from a Rahal, I think it was 20 years ago or something like that. His father missed the race that same year. And it just kind of got...
It was 30 years ago.
30 years ago, I'm sorry. It just kind of got worse, too, Mark, because Dry Reinbold, unfortunately, Wilson got hurt. And they put him in as a replacement, and the car wouldn't start. He goes 3 laps down before they even get going. So it was a tough month of May for Graham. So to come back and be sitting on the pole right now, I'd love to see him finish it off, I'll be honest with you. I'd love to see him win this race. I think it'd be great for the fans, for all of his supporters for all this time. I think he's a very gracious winner and loser, and it'd be great to see him in victory lane.
Well, there are those who haven't faced the kind of adversity that he has that could take some lessons from that.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely.
So, again, don't forget, coming up in just a few minutes from now, we'll have complete coverage of the Indy Next presented by Firestone. Again, 4:45 Eastern pre-race festivities get underway. Then a busy day tomorrow with NASCAR Cup practice kicking everything off at 11:30. Race begins at 2 p.m., and we'll have a short pre-race, talk to a couple of drivers that throw the green flag, and then wrap it up with the NASCAR Xfinity race and the NASCAR Cup race on Sunday. The director of IndyCar Radio was Chris Pollock. Our chief engineer is Rick Evans. RF operations courtesy of Paul Levitt. Master control operations thanks to Sam Rumser. Ryan Marine's on pit road for Davey Hamilton. This is Mark Janes. So long for now from the world's greatest race course, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
The preceding was an exclusive copyrighted presentation of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Radio Network.
Race fans, strap in and hold on tight. It's time to hop in the car with an NTT IndyCar Series driver. This is the IndyCar Radio Road Trip.
Time to take a road trip, and our guest is Alex Palou. You smile as much as anyone in the face of adversity. I've compared you to Elio Castro-Neves in that regard. Is that something you inherited from a family member, or is this just something that comes naturally?
I don't know. I think it comes natural by knowing that I'm living the dream that I always wanted, to be a professional race car driver, to be in IndyCar, and to have a team around me that allowed me to fight for championships like Ganassi's done since the beginning. So I'm just super happy. Every day I wake up and I go to work, and I can do what I love most, which is work on cars and drive it. And yeah, I'm super happy. So super fortunate. That's probably why I smile.
Outside of racing, who is a hero or someone you admire?
Outside of racing has to be my dad, to be honest. Didn't really have many people that I admired as a kid or now, but my dad's been always there. He went through together with all my family tough times, obviously, to try and get my career going. But he was always there. He was always there in the good and worst times, and he's been there since the beginning. So my dad.
Give me a few things that surprised you about America after you had spent a few months here.
Oh, a lot. But to be honest, it wasn't a culture shock like it